everyone. Today, I'm super excited to present our first episode. I'm privileged to introduce our first guest and his amazing story and experiences in life and also in the green industry. His journey amplifies dedication, leadership, and growth. From a crew member to a senior vice president in just 9 years. From Chicago and a Woodlands Landscape Company, please welcome Jacob Hung.
Jacob, thank you for joining me today, man.
Yeah, thanks
Appreciate
for
it.
that introduction. I'm super happy to be here and join with you and have this conversation. So super excited about it.
Awesome. Your journey is really, truly remarkable. I'm very impressed of everything you have been accomplished so far and really, really excited about what's coming ahead from you. Let's start, Jacob, from the beginning. You begin as a crew member. How did your career progress from there? Like, how that happened, crew member, and then 9 years become a senior vice president.
Yeah, so I hope I'm not leading people astray when I say I started as a crew member 9 years ago, because while I did spend some time on a crew, growing up and then also during internships and things like that, I was actually initially hired as a crew member in my first job. But the day that I got there, I was expecting to hop into a truck with the crew and go off. But as the day went on, I realized that the role that Southview had kind of slotted me for was talking with me about that day actually was moving into a garden manager or account manager, as most people in the industry know it. And so,
Right.
yes, I was hired as a crew member, 9-10 years ago now. But on day one, I went home that day and told my wife, I was like, I think I got a promotion today, because I was expecting to be on the crew, but I ended up
Right.
actually being an account manager. So going all the way back to the start, that's kind of where I started. Like I said, I mentioned I did an internship in Las Vegas for a summer, and then during college, I worked on a handful of crews as well. And so I had the experience there to some extent. Certainly not like a lot of the people that we rub shoulders with that do amazing work out there.
Right.
It's definitely not the experience that they have. But so that's kind of the start. Was on day one, I ended up and the end of the day as an account manager, which is not what was expected.
And where this happened? Where you were in Chicago, or where was the first area where you were working at this
So
moment?
the first area that I was working was actually in Minnesota. So, so
Minnesota.
we
Okay.
graduated college in Utah, and then in 2015 moved to Minnesota. No family or anything there, and just picked up and moved there to work for Southview Design. And so, that's where we
Awesome.
started.
That's impressive, man. And you mentioned it that part of the leadership that isn't just about climbing the ladder yourself, but also is like lifting others as you climb. You being now a senior vice president and kind of just going through the whole process to get there. How could you elaborate on that? Like what you really mean of climbing yourself, but at the same time just lifting others.
I think my experience with that really came with at Southview, because when I started there, I started in the maintenance department. That was really brand new. They had dabbled in maintenance the few years before I got there, and the year that that I got there, they had just hired my boss the November before, so about 6-7 months before I got there, and that's really when that division started to take off. And I just happened to be able to ride the coattails of those that were leading our division.
Right.
And so being able to see how, as a team, we were able to go from really nothing before we got there to kind of everyone rising together, I think is really where, some of that level of leadership came out. I think also, I should give a lot of credit to my parents and how they raised me, but, it was never about the one. It's always been about team. I love team sports, played a lot of team sports growing up. And so understanding that I'm a small, tiny piece in a giant cog that puts everything together, I think has really
Right.
been, how I grew up and how I was raised. And then I got to see that firsthand in my first career out of college. And now, I also understand how small of a role, even though I oversee the operations and and the team here at Woodlawns now, I understand how small of a piece I am. I can't do it myself. And so for me to even think that I should be taking credit for the amazing work that our team does uh, is kind of silly. And so I really definitely believe that it is all about the team. It's all about um, helping them grow. And if they grow, then we grow as a company. And it's better for all
Yeah,
people involved.
100%, man. I really love that philosophy. And I mean, you mentioned literally key points on that, like teamwork. Let me ask you this, and just like out of curiosity, in that process of building the teams and just make them moving forward, did you facing any challenge either with the team themselves or others, and you same kind of level of leadership in your organization? I mean, what kind of challenge you face to kind of accomplish that?
Yeah, I think I'm so fortunate with the people that I work with. They're really amazing and they do amazing work. But that doesn't mean that we're not perfect and that we don't have challenges. So
Right.
we always have challenges. And I think when it comes down to it, the vast majority of our challenges just come from a lack of communication. Whether it
True.
is literally we aren't communicating well, or it could even be we just communicate in different ways and we're not taking the time to understand one another. Or it could even be that maybe I failed to ask a good question. And so, yeah, there's always challenges. And how do we overcome those? I mean, it's just continued conversations, continued making sure that we're on the same page, understanding one another. I think also in my career, when I was, an individual performer, I didn't have to worry about other people's opinions. I did my job, I did it well, and that
Yeah.
was, what I did. And that as I grew into leadership positions at first, and even sometimes still today, I struggle with it. But you know, I forget that I need to be asking my team around me. Sometimes I make decisions and they're like, well, why did we do that? And it's like, yeah, sorry, I should have run that by you before I made that decision. And so, communication, I think, is key part of that. And being able to remember that you have a trusted team around you. And so use your trusted team and you don't have to put it all on your own shoulders. So,
100%, man. And I mean, you talk about communication, and just let me ask you this because it's a reality in the green industry. And as we spoke before about the whole purpose of this podcast is just trying to expose and present the reality out there. Have you dealt with any issues with communication based on language barriers with your employees, with the teams, where maybe some others speak Spanish or Portuguese or French, any other language? I mean, you have that situation where like I have to communicate something, but how I'm going to communicate with them if I don't know how to speak their own language?
yeah, I mean, I struggle communicating with,
What kind of translator you use?
yeah, I mean, I struggle communicating with just people that speak English, right? Like, and then
Yeah,
and
right.
then we add the language barrier onto it, and it's like, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's extremely difficult. We're super fortunate here at Woodlawns that part of our leadership team, two key members of our leadership team, speaks fluent Spanish
Awesome.
and English, and so that helps a ton in the language
That's
barrier.
important though.
Say that again.
That's important that they speak Spanish, but also English.
Yeah, you need them
English.
both, right? And so we're super fortunate in that aspect because you're right. When I'm trying to communicate with someone that primarily speaks Spanish and I primarily speak English, yeah, they're definitely the communication is less because we're both uncomfortable in trying to communicate. We're both unsure of if either one of us is understanding. And so to be able to have a translator with you, especially when it's really important, is really
Exactly.
key. And so, yeah, it is a challenge. I don't know from a one-on-one standpoint when I'm trying to speak with someone that speaks Spanish and I'm speaking English. Yeah, it's really hard. And so I tend to rely heavily on our team members that can translate for us because I think that that's more reliable than using Google Translate or, whatever the
Yeah, for sure.
translators you might use.
Yeah.
Uh, but that doesn't mean I don't pull them out from time to time when there's not another option.
Yeah, right. I know. So I mean, I just wanted to throw out there. It is a reality, it's right there, and I know many people that really Um, uh, Probably they're great communicating, but when becomes talking to someone in a different language, just hit the wall, and that really kind of complicate things. But I mean, I appreciated your input on that. But really, overall, Jacob, great philosophy. I really love it. Um, and just keep moving forward, or staying on the same topic of the leadership approach. What kind of principles you think, at least for you, are becoming a key in order to kind of implement your philosophy into your workplace, your employees, your teamwork? What kind of key principles guide you to that approach?
Yeah, I think it actually, when you were talking about the language barrier, it kind of struck a little bit with me about, one of, or something else too that, along the same lines of your question you just asked. But I think oftentimes we can underestimate a person by what language they speak. And so tying that into your question is not assuming someone by, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it, but by not assuming, or maybe the right way to say it is assuming that someone is great. And I think
Right.
that is one of the key philosophies or key principles that I try to live as a leader, is allowing super the superpowers or the strengths of the people that I work with to really show. And
Right.
definitely never want a language barrier to be the reason why that doesn't show. And unfortunately, I think it is a reason a lot of times why the superpowers of maybe those that English is their second language isn't shown as much. And so I think it's super important to recognize that as a leader, that there are superpowers that are unseen or unheard, or maybe not viewed as important as others, when in reality, everyone's superpower is really made to lift each other. And so that is one thing that I think I try to do a really good job at, is to make sure that people within our organization are in the position that best suits them. It allows them to
100%.
be successful in their role, allows each person to share what they are best at. And obviously, that's not always possible, but being able
Right.
to allow someone to excel because of what they're good at. And it makes me feel good when I can excel at what I'm good at. I know it makes others feel good when they excel
Right.
as well. So that's one.
100%.
I think being able to assume that everyone is, I call it assume positive intent. It's not my phrase, but it's just one thing that we try to live here at Woodlawns, is we call it API. So we assume positive intent. So that means, everyone that we work with, we're all trying to do the best. We make mistakes, but we're doing our best. And I think if you can view it from the lens of, yeah, they're trying their best, I'm trying our best, then a lot of those mistakes seem to be smaller than when we blow out of proportion, thinking that someone's trying to undermine us, when there's a very small population in this world that's trying to undermine us, when really most people are cheering you on and hoping you succeed.
Yeah, 100%, man. Right on that. I truly believe that really kind of make a big impact and influence the team and be able to accomplish those goals. And Jacob, you are a big preacher of life and work balance, and I'm with you. Like family first, and time, personal time, things like that. To become a great leader and be able to inspire others, like either the team under you or the team that works directly with you, why you think, and this is very important for me, and I believe also for everyone in the industry, any level, we get to the point where season hits, everyone wants green turf, beautiful flowers, it's just craziness, and we all want to do good job, right? And sometimes we just want, you know, make the work and be able to provide what our customers want. But why, in your opinion, why do you think it's important for us as leaders to have that balance between work and life, family, friends, personal time, downtime? In your opinion, why is it important for us in the industry to have the
Yeah.
balance?
I mean, I'm far from perfect in this world. Sometimes I get suckered into way too much work. And unfortunately, rarely do I get suckered in the other way from a life standpoint. But to that point, I think my philosophy on this is, if you view work-life balance truly as trying to balance something, you'll fail every time. Balance is hard. It's hard to balance something perfectly 50. And so the way that I like to view work-life balance is in the prism of filling a cup, right? So if you have a cup that you fill with water, or you fill with work, let's call it, you fill with work, and on any given day, you fill that cup with 80% work. There's only 20% left for the other things in your life. But
Right.
every day, if you fill up that extra 20% with the things that are important to you, then your cup is filled that day, right? There's no way to overflow that cup, and there's only so much time that we all have. And that's a way, sometimes my cup is filled with 90% work and 10% life. Other days it's filled 50-50 or 20-80. And so that's really how I tried to view work-life balance. I try to make sure that if it's 90% work, I'm being efficient at work. So that way, by the time I have that 10% at home or 10% with family, I'm able to be at home with family. And then the same thing on the weekends is, it's 90% home and hopefully minimal work. And so I try to keep those things separated so that way I can be present in each one. It's never perfect, but it's allowed me to have some sanity. When I first started in this industry and in this career, it was tough, and I got to breaking points, and being able to learn how to balance those things, or understanding that there's times in the year where it's go 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 go, and then
Right.
there's
Right. Never
other
stop.
times where maybe you can kind of slow down just a little.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, and it is important. Like you say, it is impossible to make it 50-50. It's always, you have to be flexible and be able to accommodate, but still it's important to have downtime, family, friends, and personal time. And some of the notes that I read about you, Jacob, and previous conversations and social media, we're going to talk about social media in a little bit. But let's dive a little bit into your secret weapon when becomes planning. You accomplish a lot: personal life, family, work, leading people, leading teams. So planning, how planning plays, what kind of role the planification help you in your strategy to just do everything you do?
Yeah, planning is always something that I'm constantly working on and thinking about, because I go through phases where one thing works really well for me and then have to change. So I go through paper lists, I go through scheduling on my calendar, and so I have all of these different things, and I get really good at it. And then when I start realizing I'm failing, then I switch, and then I can kind of keep the momentum going. I don't know why I work that way, but I've never been able to stick with one thing consistently. But the
Right.
key for me in my career, at least, has always been making sure I plan the day before. If I know the night before what I have going on the next day, then right when I get into the office, I get started on it, and that changes my whole day. Whereas if I have to sit down and I have to plan my day that morning, it just crushes. So that's on a very, like, on a day-to-day basis, that planning is so important for me. But I would even take planning to another level, and I often ask myself, okay, what's the next week look like? What's the next month look like? What's the next quarter, 6 months? And then I even like to take steps back. Oftentimes once a quarter, I try to do this, where I take a step back and say, okay, 3 years from now, what's our organization look like? 5 years from now, what's it look like? And it's very high level planning, but in fact, we just had a company update. Well, I think last week, and with it being January, we did a 2025 company update in December of 24. And so
Right.
there wasn't a ton to update necessarily this month. And so it was really I just opened the floor up to our team and just said, hey, what questions do you have? Where are we going in the future? What are we doing? And all of those things. And so being able for me to take a step back so that way I can allow my team to ask like, hey, what's coming? What's in the future? That's been super helpful for us and just from a transparency standpoint. And then they can make plans too. Like they can decide, do I want to be on this boat or am I ready to jump off?
That's
Well,
important.
I hope everyone wants to be here. I know that at times, maybe the direction we're going isn't the same direction that they want to go. And so I cross my fingers. I think everyone on our team right now wants to be here, but we'll continue to share those plans. And so I hope that answers your question about planning, but that's
Oh yeah, 100%, man.
from a day-to-day to a 5-year plan, super important.
Yeah, you mentioned it really very key important things like transparency when talking the plan to the team. That's important. I mean, you just say it. If you're transparent with the team, they know what's coming, they know what the expectations are, and if they're on board, I mean, just moving forward, right? That's important. So no, that's great. Thank you for those comments, Jacob. I really appreciate it. And so, how is Chicago treating you so far? You like
Yeah,
it?
it's been fantastic. We were super, super happy in Minnesota. We loved working at Southview. It's an amazing company with amazing people. And we honestly never thought we were going to leave. Like we had no plans. We would ask ourselves, my wife and I, we would talk and we'd ask, what does a year look like from now? What does 5 years look like from now? And honestly, the answer was always, we're very happy with where we are and what's happening. And then in 2023, Southview was purchased by Mariani Premier Group. We joined with the Mariani Premier Group, and then my boss just asked me kind of out of the blue one day, want to move to Chicago. And so I texted my wife that day. I literally texted her one word. I just said Chicago ? And it just happened to be our anniversary. And so we were actually scheduled to go to dinner that night. And so that night on our anniversary dinner, we were able to kind of talk about, hey, what does that look like? And is it something that we're interested in? And kind of the rest is history from there. We started making plans and preparations to move. And 3 months later, I was down here working. And 5 months later, we moved the family down. And so, yeah, so Chicago's been fantastic. We've loved
Awesome.
it. Doesn't mean that there haven't been hard days for our family where, we miss our friends in Minnesota and things like that. But from a work standpoint, the team here is amazing and family's adjusting. I've officially been here for 1 year and then we've officially moved as a family coming up in about a month and a half. So
that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we're following your journey on social media and all the change. And talking about social media, you post a lot on social media. And it just, I mean, this is not exactly about life and work integration or balance, but I don't want to say just why, but like,
yeah,
I'm kind of the same boat with you. Like, I want to post and just kind of, be out there. But what's your purpose, your point of view of just, publishing what you're doing, your success, some of the issues that you're dealing with? What do you think about that? Many people don't like social media.
And I think there's great reasons why not to like social media, right?
Yeah, true.
There
You're
are
right.
fantastic reasons why not to like social media, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of great stuff out there too, as long
Sure.
as you can use it properly. And I was never a big social media person, never posted. Like, that's not my natural personality. My natural personality is to sit in the back and observe. And so for me to post on social media is like way out of left field for me, but it's been super beneficial. And there's a handful of reasons why I do it. And the reason it really started was because I wanted to share the benefits that I have had in the landscape industry. Never did I think growing up that I would be a landscaper. I started at like 13, 14 years old mowing lawns for neighbors. I didn't realize that it was like a full-time career that you can make, a living off of it. And
Right.
so that's one of the reasons why is really just to bring the professionalism of the industry to the mainstream. And so I wanted to do my small piece in that. If there's, one person out there or a parent out there with kids in college that could be like, hey, landscaping is a career. If there's one person out there that could could change their life, that's great. And even if not, that's okay too, because it's helped me as well. So some of the things that I started learning when I was posting on LinkedIn or on social media is that it helped me realize that I had an opinion, that I had a point of view that will, you know, changed my life. And so I initially started just to kind of share that landscape industry, you can create a career out of it. And then also a little bit too, to bring exposure to the companies that I've worked at. And whether that be for recruiting purposes or for, sales reasons. But what it has really led to, and maybe the reason why I continue to post, is just because of the way that it has helped me understand what's important enough for me to post about. And that helps me understand, really has helped me understand who I am as a person as well. So those are a handful of reasons why I post.
No, that's good, man. That's good. And I mean, I'm like I mentioned it to you earlier. I feel very identified with you thinking and the way you do things. Doing this podcast is 100% outside my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I'm just like you. I used to be that guy sitting in the back of the room. Actually, I was on your presentation at Elevate on North Carolina last year in November, right?
Yeah.
Last November?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was all the way in the back, willing to ask questions. I didn't say anything. And then at the end of the presentation, you were surrounded by different people. And I said, oh, I want to see him later. And I didn't have the opportunity to kind of talk to you in that event. So it is important. I pretty much kind of with you on the same things. And you mentioned it a little bit about exposing the green industry and how people can make a living out of it. What advice could you give or provide to any young fellas that are just starting in the landscape and the green industry, just because probably that's the only thing they're willing to do, they're doing right now, or the only option they have, or many people that are in the industry and wondering if they should continue on it or just change path? What kind of advice could you provide to them?
This is a big topic. We could spend so much time here. I think if I were to put myself back in the shoes of either a college student or someone that's just starting in the industry, I think and I don't want to say this is most important or anything like that, but
Right.
I think an important part of growing is also being content. And being content with where you are and what you're learning. And then at the same time, being able to continue to be curious and know what your boss expects. I think there are kind of three things. So I don't want to make this impersonal, but if you really break business down, it's kind of a giant game, right? It's this game of how do we continue to grow? How do we continue to succeed? How do we do all of those things? And when you're early in your career, the most important thing that you can do is just be really good at your game. Be good at playing in the role that you've been asked to play and do it and learn it and grow in that area. Once you've started to do that, then your bosses start to see like they're capable. They can do what we're asking them to do. What else can they do? So your boss starts to add certain things onto your plate and you start taking those things on. And I think that's, the first step is really being able to do great at the job you're asked to do and then start adding small things here and there. And so I highly encourage people to ask, if you don't know for sure what your boss's expectations are, then you're missing something. And so always be asking your boss what their expectations are, because if you don't know, then you're going to fall behind. And so this last thing that I've been thinking about lately is there's three things. If you want to grow in your career, there's really kind of three things that you need to do. You need to be really good at your job already. You need to possess the skills to do the job that you want. And then you also have to be able to train your replacement. So
Very important.
so many times, and it kind of stinks that you have to be able to train your replacement, because you may be capable to do the next role. But if
Right.
you haven't laid the groundwork yet for someone to come and replace you, then the company that you're working for has a very hard time moving you into that next position. And in reality, that should be your boss's responsibility, but that doesn't happen very often. Oftentimes, you've got to take the initiative to find your replacement in order for it to actually go through.
Yeah, very insightful topics and key and points that you mentioned. It, just overall people in the industry and just to be able to keep or succeed. Be able to succeed on whatever role they're playing. And Jacob, and your point of view, a lot of things are changing in the country and the world, and climate and a lot of things, economy, society. And your point of view, what's the future for the green industry? What do you think is coming for us in the next 3 to 5 years, when it becomes landscapers and lawn care companies? Why, in your point of view, what you think is coming ahead for us?
Ooh.
I'm putting in the trouble, huh?
I think a lot is going to change in the upcoming years. I by no means have a ton of information or details on what that is, but I think a ton is changing. I think technology is just going to continue to infiltrate our industry. I think for a long time this industry was, technology averse, that just, we've done it this way for 100 years. Why are we going to change? Right?
This is the right way.
Yeah. And I think that's going to change really fast. I was actually just thinking about it, and you're the first person I've talked to about, but I've been thinking about AI and self-driving cars and all of that kind of stuff, and what that would do to account managers, and how much, let's say a company says, you know what, we're going to invest in self-driving cars and AI technology. All of a sudden, an account manager can go out and sit in their car in the back seat in a desk and drive from site to site and see all of these hundreds of sites. And then I started thinking about it even more, and it's like, and it could even change beyond that. Let's put a camera on each crew. They walk the site, and AI is going to detect enhancement opportunities for us. And so I think the industry is going to change at extremely rapid pace, and who knows how close all of this stuff is. But I was just thinking about that the other day. Yeah, and yeah, it's a deep topic that we could go.
It is another
Yeah,
topic,
I don't know.
for
Really
sure.
quick, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I really think that technology is impacting already the industry. Mowers, the estimation softwares, AI, like you mentioned, and now a lot of people, CRMs, account managers, PRs, marketing departments are heavy users of AI. In Elevate, we just, I think they have 1 or 2 topics just about that. I wasn't able to attend it, but I hear, a lot of information about those presentations. But we are using already some of those technologies in the field. I have the impression that there's still more work needs to be done to be able to accomplish all the results that we wanted. But we are in the right path to do so. But I do feel like the good things are coming for the industry overall. So we'll see what happens in the future. So you excited? You ready for the big game in a couple of weeks, or a really big fan of the football?
Yeah, no, I do enjoy football. Probably don't watch it as much as I used to, but I will probably catch the Super Bowl. And yeah, I mean, I used to be a big fantasy football player, and now I still have a team. I just don't pay as much attention to it. And yeah, it's just, but yeah, no, a rematch, right, of 2 years ago. And I think there's a lot of tired.
Yeah, 100%. Everyone is talking about it. Is what, next weekend or the following
Weekends
weekend?
away still, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's a weekend. Yeah, I know, right? Times fly. We're already in February tomorrow, and so when in Chicago normally your growing season start, Jacob? Was like April, May?
Yeah, so our
kind of-
contracts officially start April 1st. That's kind of standard, but you're
Okay.
definitely seeing with, to your point earlier, climate change, the changes that are happening environmentally. I mean, we're seeing, earlier ability to go out. So our teams will probably start going out mid-March to begin spring cleanups, potentially earlier depending on how things are looking. And then,
Yeah.
but that's kind of our time frame, is the April time frame.
You guys deal with snow
We
removal?
do.
You do
We
that
do a
work?
little bit of snow removal. We aren't a huge snow removal company. Actually, we're a very
Okay.
small snow removal company, but that will continue to grow as my experience in Minnesota doing a lot of snow removal. We'll start to see that grow, and I think we've been very quiet about snow removal, and historically here at Woodlawns, but we'll start making a little bit of noise in the next 2 years with snow removal.
That's good, man. I just asked because I mean, I am far south, South Carolina, almost in the limit with
Yeah,
Georgia, and last week we just got a
yeah,
snowstorm. Like at least on my place, we got like almost 8 inches of snow slash
yeah,
ice, and 2 days ago, still it was a lot of ice on the roads, and so like what's now? I mean, we start getting ready for be a snow
yeah,
removal company or what?
yeah. That's
You never know,
It's
right?
kind of crazy because here in Chicago, depending on where you're at, we're only at like 8 to 11 inches for the entire snow season. So we've gotten like
Really?
no snow this year. So, it,
Wow.
it's a hard business to rely on when you don't have snow. So, but yeah, it's kind of
Yeah, for
crazy to
sure.
think that you guys got as much snow in one storm as we have all season. So,
Yeah, right. Like you say, I mean, now things are upside down. You never know. Jacob, I really appreciate it, man. I really, really want to thank you to take the time of your busy life and day to sit down with me almost for an hour and just talk about leadership, your experience in the life and the green industry, and just a little bit about everything. I really have enjoyed the conversation with you. Hopefully, in the near future, we can meet again and just have a good coffee or beer or whatever you like, and then just be able to keep talking. But I really appreciate you making the time to join the journey and this project. I
yeah,
appreciate it.
well, thank you so much for inviting me to join. Congratulations are definitely in
Thank you.
order for the podcast here. That's massive. Certainly, you inspired me today. When we just hop on the call and you said, you know what, I just went for it. I stopped thinking about it and just did it. So huge props to you. That's amazing. So congratulations. Super excited to follow along on your podcast journey. And anytime you need someone, let me know. I'd be happy to hop on with you.
Thank you, Jacob. I appreciate
Yeah,
it, man.
absolutely. Thanks, Miz.